I'm just sitting here with JD. JD Godbout. He fights for God for you. He's your warrior. Yep. Yeah, this is your favorite host. It's Michael Tanner with Dice Media Group. He's sitting in Atlanta, and he's going to tell us what it's like in other parts of the country, like we're in a dugout 600 feet under the ground in Great Salt Lake. And he's got some sports to talk about. Going to talk about how to get a job and keep it, how about the good old boys club and all those great things, because it's Friday. Sure. Yep, it is definitely Friday. Let's start.
So what's going on in Utah as far as you're in an underground bunker 600 feet underground? You were talking about housing. It's just there's not enough houses for everybody to live in. And is it the economy? Is it that hot a market? Is everybody moving from California?
Well, what's happening, everybody's moving from California. I just talked to a real estate guy today. If you work 40 to 60 hours a week at $15 an hour in Utah, you cannot afford a place by yourself.
No.
You can't afford a place by yourself. It's happened everywhere. I mean, and people are, I think there's a lot of foreign money. They're putting their money into the ground in the United States. I think that there's some stuff that's happening. And there's a lot of people that are getting out of college right now. They can't get a job to save themselves. They put themselves $80,000 in debt. You are the master of getting those people some jobs, from what I understand. You are. Remember how I fall off a truck and I want to get the Wells Fargo job where I get fired and I walk away with $103 million in my pocket. I won't last the week. If I know I'm going to get fired and make money, hey, that kind of money, most of us would look forward to it. So what's happening in Atlanta? Well,
I'll tell you, it's kind of funny. We've got the All-Star game here next week, and normally without COVID-19, that's a time you probably wouldn't want to be in Atlanta, just because the whole city goes absolutely crazy. Cars going down the wrong street, the malls, parties everywhere. But since COVID-19's done, they're not doing any of that stuff. So in a way, I think probably the city's kind of relieved, because last thing we need is craziness right now. That's uncontrolled with the way everything's going. But yeah, Atlanta's good. Atlanta's, we didn't do any of the shutdown. Our governor was the first, as a lot of people probably know, to open up the state. So in general, all our restaurants, even our bars. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a buddy who went out last Saturday night to this place called Downtown Roswell, which is kind of like the new spot, hip area in Atlanta. And he said he couldn't tell the difference. No one's wearing a mask. Everybody's drinking, everybody's partying, and I'm just kind of like, I haven't done anything because I've been kind of on lockdown. But I mean, we're relatively pretty good. Now the big businesses here are all remote. Everybody's working from the house. Like your big enterprise companies, your Fortune 500s, they're all remote. But your mid-sized businesses, restaurants, they're here. So we've been pretty fortunate in that regard.
No, in Utah, the thing is that we're really hard hit by COVID everywhere. So
really,
yeah, I actually myself got COVID for a week and I was in the hospital.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, but you spent how many weeks in the hospital?
I spent a week in the hospital.
Oh yeah. Did you go on the machine?
Well, I went under get shot in the stomach every 2 hours by the nurse with an anticoagulant, so I don't get But anyway,
man, you're good now. I mean, you're like a nuclear bomb could go off next to you and you'd survive now. I mean, you're like I say you're a cockroach to everybody when they're having a tough time.
That's what people say when you go interview people. They're like very much sometimes, I'm happy to see you. And they're like, well, yeah, not really. Anyway, but here's the fun thing is that you work media, you do good stuff. You're going to be good with people. So the thing is, though, is that we talk to you because there are a lot of people that if you had a hotel, that hotel's gone. A lot of times. Yeah. If you had owned a restaurant, right, we have a 95% failure rate. We already had that normally, but my God, if you're taking 40% off the 90% you weren't making it on, well, you're gone. So now you have all these great skills. Now we have to go work from home when we're not really used to doing that. And from what I understand, you place some people. There's actually a study that went out there that went. It's like 50% of the people said that if they have to go back to showing up to the office, they're not doing it. They'd rather stay at home. So what do we do to be in part of the economy where we get hired to have a real job, you know? And
let's talk about the home stuff, because we're all remote at my company, and I'll tell you, it's going to be real difficult for us to go back into an office, and I'm hearing that a lot from a lot of our clients, and a lot of my friends who have big jobs. They are kind of questioning when that's going to happen. And here's what I think is going to happen. I think with the home stuff, I'll tell you this. I think companies that have these big offices, they're going to have to eventually have some kind of collaboration. So they're going to go in the office, right? Okay. Maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, after everybody gets the vaccination. Then what's going to happen is you're going to have people balking at it because, a lot of people like working from the house. I mean, you get up, you're already at work, there's no commute. You don't have to put pants on if you don't want to. I mean, most people don't do Zoom calls or Skype. They still talk on the phone, and you're already productive. If you want to take the dog out for a walk, you do. But there's always going to be somebody that's going to be in the office when that happens 5 days a week. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have competition take place. Because how do you get promoted? How do you go up the ranks? If you're at the house, and you're talking in your home office like I am right now, it's going to be. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have your people, especially for younger people who want to be more social. I think they're eventually going to start creeping back in, and I would imagine, this is my gut saying that I think in 2-3 years, I think we'll be all back, working, except, they'll have an option of, a day or two where you could telecommute, but that's kind of been like that for the last, 10 years. People have been telecommunicating. So I think we'll be all right. I think people are going to go back in the offices. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of empty office buildings that look really pretty.
What about that? Is that if you're in an office, building, you're kind of like really in trouble right now. Even in the office where you just step in for a day or so, and you come back out.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
If you're in that biz, right? Are you just? Is it
time to
real
leave? Estate brokers are dying.
Is it time to buy that, or is it time to let it go? If it's part of your portfolio, kind of thing. Do you want to?
Most of these giant, real Class A office buildings are owned by REITs. So, it's real estate investment trust groups. So they don't. I mean, they're not in any danger of, getting foreclosed on. It's almost like you were talking with me the other day ago when you said, if you owe the bank 10 grand, it's your problem. But if you owe the bank 10 million, that's a bank problem. Yeah. They're almost too big to fail, right? I don't think there's going to be, that's a good question, right? I mean, in 2008, the skyline of Atlanta was just a boom, crazy skyline. And a lot of these office buildings, you just see at night, just pure, you can look right through and you wouldn't see anybody in there. But, eventually, companies want that prestige, I think, and they want to be, I don't know. I think they're doing okay. I think your individual brokers, your commercial real estate guys are really struggling. I think people who own, strip malls are probably hurting because of their small businesses. But by no means are we in Atlanta or Georgia, okay. You know what I mean? I mean, we're lucky that we're a little bit okay, but it's been a pretty tough time.
Everything that you wanted to do got ganked. Dragon Con's going to probably not happen again this year. $1 billion. I mean, people say it's only like $20 million, but then all those people book hotels, they make deals, things happen, fun happens, funny things happen after the fun.
That's a big deal. So what's the deal with what's the big series right now that everybody's watching in science fiction? What's everybody kind of into, you think?
I think that they're into The Expanse. I think Discovery. We call it's STD. It's the venereal disease of Star Trek. They're trying to get rid of it. There's really good if you want to watch old stuff is Farscape. If you've never seen it, there's a lot of animation going on. Coming up soon. The Mandalorian, of course, we're going to talk a
Yeah,
little about
yeah,
Star
yeah,
Wars,
yeah,
but that's
yeah,
mostly because the lady that was running Star Wars didn't have anything to do with it, and then she's really pissed about it. She's getting fired, stuff like that.
yeah.
There's so many things that are out there and about, like so. But
Well,
what
let me
I
ask you this: since we're
what
talking space, what about this Mars thing? I'm pretty tired of Mars right now. What's your opinion on that? Because it seems to me that we keep going up there, and I'm supposed to be excited about another rover wandering around a red, dusty place, and they're not figuring anything out yet. I mean, do you have fatigue on Mars?
No.
Mars
There
fatigue?
are see what you don't see is that there's asteroids that are just entirely made of iron that are miles and
Yeah,
miles across. See, the problem is that the exploration part takes place before the exploitation part takes place.
yeah,
So you go explore, then you exploit. And for a lot of people, they haven't got to the part where they have the largest gas station in our solar system is on Titan. But anyway,
methane, right?
methane, yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, methane. The moon of that's a Jupiter moon, or is that a Saturn moon?
we're going around Saturn, yeah, Titan.
You're going around Saturn, Titan. Okay.
Yep. But anyway, lots of good stuff. So okay, let's talk about something that we did want to
Okay.
talk. Like we were going to
Yeah.
talk about mentorship. So
Sure.
if you bring somebody into your company, right? Because you are
Uh huh.
the head cheese head, right, or whatever. What happens when okay, I've got a 20-year-old, or okay, they've been to college, but they really didn't learn how to work when they're in college, right? I mean, it's a different
Sure.
type of thing. How do we
Sure.
transition? And then they have a lot of problems because they didn't go for the last year of college face to face, So there's not a lot of mentorship
Oof.
right there.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that actually. That's a good point. The last year of college, especially for these people that are graduating, say in the spring, that's a good point. Wow.
What do you think about what do you think their chances are gonna? Yeah, I thought about it. What do you think their chances are? You're a headhunter, right?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
looking for geniuses and people, right? But what do you
Yeah.
for placement for people? What do you think? What do you think people are looking for right now? I want to get a really high placed job because I got like $80,000-$90,000 student loans. I want to get something,
Right. Right.
you know.
Well, I mean, obviously, when you're talking to an agency like our agency, you're using us to find a specific skill. Okay. And I'll give you an example. We just have helped a client today fill a big time call center position in the Philippines, which I know has nothing to do with the United States, but this is a guy that obviously had a lot of experience. So it's not somebody that you could probably requisition, through your HR department. I mean, there's some HR departments that you probably can, but for a college kids, and that's, I like talking to the college, the young people. If I talk to them, we have interns. We don't have any right now because of COVID, but for your younger type people, the skill sets that we're anything that deals with computer programming, those are really the skill sets that we're looking for. Full stack development. So a lot of the young people that are coming out of school, or if they've been developing, we can get them jobs. And the reason why we can is usually what happens is we test them, so we know if they're good. You follow me? So
Yeah.
if you're talented and you can do a specific skill set, technology, with technology, we can get you a job if we have a client that's looking for that particular skill set. But if you're talking about guys like me that really don't have a specific skill set, it's a little tougher, because we're not in the business of really I want to say charging clients for salespeople that are $100,000 a year. We've placed them, but for young people, most of the jobs we see are kind of along the lines that aren't going to help you pay off an $80,000 or $90,000 a year job. Excuse me, student debt. But it's a tough situation, I think. I think it's been tough for young college graduates, pretty much forever. I think it's always hard to get your first job. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, I think that's very much true. What about if we wanted to get, let's say, is it better to skip college if you had the right skill set?
Ooh.
Like if you're a really good salesperson, right? Should I just tell them skip it? Stay.
Yeah, that's good too. Well, here's the other thing too. It's a tough time, between 18 and 22, 23, because you've got that disease of chronic youthfulness at that point, right? So, as far as skipping college, I would never recommend skipping college just because it's a fun time. But you can always do stuff. You go to the military, you get a job. I mean, a lot of people are like that. But when you're young like that, I typically think people tend not to take you as seriously, and that's not to criticize young people because I was there too, and I remember that time for me was kind of an interesting period because I didn't know what I was going to do, which is okay, but it's what do you typically see young people doing right now? You think during this time, working in restaurant, well, not anymore.
Well,
But
some people are just doing. I've seen people spending all day on YouTube so they can make $50.
yeah, you know what?
Or doing likes for
Being
people.
an influencer, and
They try to
well, I'm
do,
not the right guy to know anything about that, but yeah, maybe
but they do these
that's
like stupid jobs, which aren't really helping them. I would much rather, honestly, I'd much rather have a young kid work in a car lot trying to sell cars or do something like that, where they can have
actually
some
pretty
people
nice.
teaching them, yeah, teaching them how to do stuff, right? Most kids,
Yeah,
I can get a developer. We can test them. I don't know how long they're going to last if they don't know how to stay there, for a day eating pizza all night and working out with the team. So, I think that that's a problem right now. But
yeah,
what do you think? Okay, so let's talk about somebody older. They
yeah,
they were executive. They got account executive, right? They worked
yeah,
for a hotel. They were placing rooms and doing large events and things like that, right? Well, guess what?
yeah.
They go, honey, you know what? I can. We've got to get used to unemployment or something right now. There.
Right.
What do we say to that? 40, 50-year old guy or gal. Where
We talked to them a lot. We talked to those kind of people a lot. And typically, yeah, the hotel industry is definitely got decimated. That's not an industry that we work with, but I have a friend who is specifically does restaurants and hotels, and he basically had to change his whole business around because there just wasn't anything going on. I mean, his business came to a crashing halt um, right in March. I mean, it went from, and he's one of the largest recruiting agencies in the United States for restaurant and hotel people. And I mean, it's when I say came to a halt, I mean like from 80 current jobs he was working on with his team to zero. So those people got hit pretty hard. I don't know. I mean, I would do anything. I tell people a lot, you know, when they're talking to me, I just try to tell people to survive and do whatever you can to, live another day and just gut it out. I mean, sometimes that's not the best thing that people want to hear because it's, utterly, it's self-reflecting and it's hard. But at this time right now, I mean, there are a lot of tools. I mean, you can go on the internet and you can, someone's going to see you on these job boards, right, with a good resume. But the psychological fact of it, you were asking me if you were someone who lost their job and if I would tell my wife. Ooh, I don't know. I probably would not tell her for the first couple of weeks.
we're doing the therapy at the bar.
I'd have a cocktail
or something.
I'd have a cocktail. But I think also, Mike, I think that if you're not laying in bed every night, kind of staring at the ceiling fan, at least saying to yourself, once or twice, what ifs. I think that some of that's kind of healthy because I do think the seeds of disaster are sown when times are good, right?
Right.
You know, so it's good to have some paranoia about business and about your job, and you know, it makes you work harder, and I mean, it's not necessarily, it's a little bit's fine, right? Because there's a difference between pressure and stress. I don't think no one wants stress, but there's nothing wrong with pressure. And I equate it to, you know, you got to sink a free throw to tie the game with 2 seconds left. That's pressure, right?
Okay.
Pressure's good. Stress isn't.
What would be something that we define as stress? Because I've shut down before because I have 10 employees and where's the money coming from? You know, is it so?
That's stress.
That's stress.
That's stress. I think that's stress. Yeah, I think it's, you know, they can kind of be equal actually. You know, you have to define it as pressure as something that you can embrace and kind of you know, you want to. I think you maybe have a mind frame that you look at. You try to change your stress into just pressure. Like if that's the case, well, I need to find some more clients. How am I going to do that? Or you know, I need to find, you know, somebody that's hiring. I need to adapt. I need to learn a new skill, you know, so I don't become one of those, you know, statistics in 2021, you know. But the most important thing about that, I got to say, is you want to just never give up. And also, you know, that process of adapting and learning new skills starts on Monday, usually at 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay.
So, you know, that's kind of a big deal in the sense that, you know, you're in competition, right? I really believe that everybody's, you know, you're in competition with millions and millions of individual businesses. And if you look at your own life and your own career as an individual business, and you have to kind of adapt and relearn, retrench, you know, gather new skills and outcompete a person, you know, for that same opportunity. You know, that's kind of the mind frame that I kind of try to have, right? And you know, for me, you know, it's, you know, I try to make sure that give myself every opportunity to win business, to keep a job, to, you know, keep my family, you know, from freaking out, you know. And sometimes it's tough. I mean, you're not kidding. Sometimes, you know, I go for a long walk.
So as a parent and a dad, you think that part of your job is so that the family does not freak out. That's
you know, that's a good question. I mean, I think that, you know, I think so. Yeah, don't you? I mean, because, you know, as a leader, you know, I'm not a big person I don't advocate. You kind of try to have emotional intelligence and keep a lot of your thoughts, you know, compartmentalized, right?
okay.
And, you know, part of that is, you know, maybe, you know, kind of keeping things to yourself. And that's just, you know, kind of how I think I get through, you know, my personal daily dilemmas. And, you know, usually there's one or two, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I had this theory, like, keep it a secret, to bury the shovel, you know.
You know? What was that movie, The Hangover?
Yeah.
The Hangover, where I was like, that's actually pretty good advice, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, you just bury that and bury the shovel because of
don't dwell on it again, pal.
Yeah, because if you sit there and you dwell on it, I think that's the problem with a lot of people these days. They dwell on it, and then it doesn't make anything any better. You know, it doesn't. You just have to. It takes a while when you lose a job. I thought about also losing a job as kind of a mourning period too, because those are my associations.
Sure. It's like losing a relationship, you know. I mean, you know, losing a relationship, you know, because you messed up and you know, did something you shouldn't have done, right? Or, you know, maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe it just came to an end. It is a mourning period, absolutely. And man, I tell you, you know, losing a job, it depends what kind of job too. A lot of times, you know, I'll be like, well, it really wasn't the job of the century, so, you know, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, sometimes when you lose a business or your blood, sweat, and tears is in a restaurant. You know, I've got friends that have restaurants that have gone out that are barely hanging on. It's terrible, you know. But yeah, you do. You gotta. I don't know what you do, man. You gotta just keep on going, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we cowboy. Yeah, that's what we do. We cowboy up. How about okay? Let's look at it. Let's look at some of the some positive things. So we have tech is hiring really hardcore. But one of the
Yeah.
things about tech hiring hardcore is that they're hiring because they want to eliminate people from their job sites. So in a
Yeah.
way, you hire people in tech to eliminate the amount of people that you need. So it used to take 1,000 people, now it takes 5 people to run that same office. It's so
Yeah.
I as a recruiter, do you see like we have so many? It's like musical chairs, and we keep pulling all the chairs away, and there's more and more people left on the side, or do you see
Well,
it as a more
one thing I
positive
do
way?
notice, yeah, I will say that a lot of stuff is getting outsourced. We're I'm first of all, I'm a businessman, and obviously, I do feel like I have, responsibility to my city and my employees and people and finding them jobs, and I think that's really a cool thing. But sometimes it just dictates that they're, companies want to make money, and if they can get it cheaper and almost as good, they're going to do it, right? And so that leads to the outsourcing and having jobs over in like China or the Philippines, not China anymore, but places that speak English. I was talking to someone yesterday about the Philippines. So what they're paying over there is about 25% of what an American makes, right?
Okay.
So any job, I don't care if it's, anything you can think of technically, right? So if it's $100,000 a year tech job, it's $25,000 in the Philippines. So if it's a $40,000 tech job here, it's $400. So
Wow.
that's and that's I was surprised too. I always heard that, but I actually didn't see an Excel spreadsheet, because I was like, holy moly. Now you know why a lot of these companies move their jobs overseas, because it is that much cheaper, believe it or not.
Can we
Which
make
is
can we make deals that way as a businessman? Do we make the same amount of? I mean, ultimately, somebody has to make a deal so that somebody can be employed. So
yeah,
I'm wondering, and we lost the hotel industry and all the places where we used to meet, and
I know.
and all these kinds of things. But now we're meeting online, and we're automating a lot of that. But how? I mean, I've never been able to go into a room and within an hour, well, and just meet somebody and come out with a real serious deal. It usually takes weeks of them being able to trust me, and things like
Yeah,
that. Like if
yeah,
you go in a room and it's $10, no problem. Go in a room for
yeah.
$10,000, you might have to talk to them for a week. Go in there for a hundred
Oh yeah.
grand, $1,000,000. My thing was $789,000. I had to work that deal for a while. That deal took like 3-4 months to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And we
yeah,
have and we had to shake their hand. We had to look them in the eye. They had to trust us. There were threats, and there's usually subtle threats that are exchanged over that kind of money.
yeah, yeah,
It's not. It's like, yeah, we'll do it, but if you, yeah, whatever, because it's life changing kind of money, and you just have to. So, what do you think if people are going to, let's say if they were going to approach your company? What are the things that they're not gonna meet you probably face to face probably right now? I don't know how you're doing it.
no, no, they're
How
not. We're not really doing much of that now. We do, nationwide. So, before that, I would travel occasionally, not too much. It depends, because we want to get FaceTime with people. But yeah, right now, I mean, I've got kids in the background. I apologize. They're going nuts right now. The
that's part of
mother-in-law's
the
here, so
experience.
that is part of the experience. And actually, you know what? That actually kind of can work to your advantage a little bit, because I don't mind when I'm talking to a customer, because usually they have their kids in the background too.
Right. So no,
But
that's just the reality of it. That's
it
total
is. The
reality, and
dog's
people,
barking.
yeah,
Um, but it's kind of, on the other side of that is there's nothing worse than getting getting told that all your employees are being let go because the business got crushed to COVID. So I've had those conversations with some clients too. So I would rather just have a phone call on that if it's going to be bad news. I don't
so
need a video chat for that.
yes, we made $1 billion in public. We losing our butts in private. That's how.
All
Yeah.
right.
What about is there something? I mean, okay, so we plan for 2 years from now, according to the Horizon, right? We
Yeah.
have we have $10 million jobs less right now than we did a year ago. That's 10 million people are less working right now than we have a year ago. You can say the employment's 5%, but it's probably in the 20% in a lot of areas in the country, right?
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be. I think it might be higher than what they're saying. So
You were talking to me. I want to get an executive job and I want to make over 100 grand a year. You said that sometimes that's like a club or something like that. Do you think that's
yeah, I don't. Well, you were talking about like the financial industry and everything about like what these guys on Wall Street do, and I know a little bit about that. Yeah, it's a whole nother level of I mean, a lot of it's it's always been and it always will be who you know, right? But a lot of these big time executive jobs for young kids, in the finance industry, I mean, a lot of it, they're really pretty much glorified salesmen, right?
okay?
So, their job is basically, I mean, the way I understand it, and this is the way that, we don't do any recruiting for banks or investment banks or hedge funds or anything like that. We do recruiting for companies that they want to buy and they want to, we do work with funds that do that, private equity funds that say, hey, JD, we need a CFO for the company we just bought that's small that we're going to invest a ton of money into in Houston. Okay, so we'll go out and we'll go find them someone for that kind of job. But obviously those are experienced people. But the young kids, I mean, what they're there to do is get investment. So a lot of these Wall Street guys, hedge fund types, they come from money. So a lot of it could be, say somebody gives them $1 million to invest, from a family member, and they kind of work that. I don't think it's a lot of Wolf of Wall Street where they're cold calling plumbers and trying to sell penny stocks. But for a young person to get a job like that, I mean, I guess you gotta sell something. You gotta figure out, what it is. You gotta drive revenue, right? So I tell my salespeople, I go, you look at yourself as a detective. Your job is to detect where business is, right?
Okay.
And then when you detect it, you find an opportunity, and an opportunity is a pain point. So what we try to do is I'm always looking for companies that are really, really messed up, right? I mean, like, the culture's bad. Someone's gotten fired, someone's left, because those are the companies that require our services. Either they're growing or, there's something that's just going on. But if it's a stagnant, I don't know, like what would be an oil, where it's just status quo. Right. Those aren't companies that need my help. They'll talk to the, HR people and they'll do what they do. So that's kind of how we go about, finding people jobs. Is we look for companies that are high growth, that are sometimes a mess, sometimes even have bad reputations. I mean, it's funny, everybody is on Glassdoor has got an opinion, right?
Is there a company? Okay, let's say if it was like AMI or something like that, even GameStop or whatever. And they were, I'm just picking them because it's just random, okay? They need somebody to take them over because whatever, right? But you have to say, hey, guy, I know I'd like to get you this really good job, but you know that the company may not last 6-8 months, but you'll get paid a good amount of money, right? Do you have to make those kinds of conversations?
Sure. You know what? Sometimes I'll have to give you an example. We get guys sometimes that will have up for, like, say if it's a C-level job or a expensive search where they're actively somebody who's probably say they're not employed, and they say they get a couple offers. My response usually is, I always say take the money because it's all work, right? So but I've had one guy one time say, well, I really like this other place, but it's $50,000 less. And I'm like, really, seriously? After 2 weeks, you're going to really care? You're going to care about the 50 grand that you took less to work there? And he's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, it's if it's a dream job of the century, then you do what you got to do. But in general, I always tell people to take the money. It's funny. I'll tell you another thing. Amazon. Right? You know Amazon.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people, and coming from Amazon. Um, like not Amazon, in Virginia, the headquarters, but all those distribution centers,
Yeah.
right? A lot of young people. Because we've got a division that, will do those kind of jobs too. And I've heard some horror stories about that place. I
Okay.
mean, like what they do. Oh my gosh. The fact that we get our packages in a timely manner before the pandemic was amazing to me, right? I think everybody's kind of come to the conclusion that if you don't get it within 2 days, you're okay with it because we understand that, how busy they are.
Yeah.
Typical Amazon warehouse employee has to pick 2,000 items an hour.
Whoa.
Could you imagine that?
That's like
And you're
that's worse than
like,
chickens.
it's it's like I'd rather defeather chickens. And then they have them competing against robots too.
Wow.
You want to know? And here's the tough thing. I mean, obviously, some people are good at that. Some people can do it, but for how long is that sustainable? So what they do is, first of all, it's not a lot of money. It's anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour. In Georgia, it's 15. Probably in Utah, it's probably a little more. California, it's definitely 20. But
17.5. So
is
yeah.
is that what you mean? Yeah, 17.5. So but is that sustainable for somebody?
No.
It's not. It's not, and it's my thoughts on that kind of stuff. So raising the minimum wage and that's good. I Yeah, because I don't know. It's amazing. I never really thought about the Amazon workers until you start talking to them and realize what kind of job that is. It's God bless them, right?
Right. But for the grace of God, there go I. And but for me, I'm not good at doing the cash register stuff much. I'm not that kind of person. I'm the kind of person who says, I'll sell 100 knives an hour. They say, you can't do that. And I go up and I'll sell 200 knives, inside of Costco or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So that's that. But that is not really, that's not something that people can duplicate very easily, or to be able to talk to people in a way that they can understand. Right?
Did you know Costco doesn't have signs or labels on their aisles, and they purposely rearrange items around just to piss you off and make you walk down each aisle and throw more stuff you don't need into your cart.
And the people at the end of the aisles, they don't even work for Costco. Costco's on like 10 people. Costco only has like 10 people any time that are working. I mean, inside there, except for the warehouse people. They're ultimate logistics. They're just a warehouse that you're allowed to walk through. And
that makes sense.
They don't make their money on the items as much as they make money on their memberships. So their memberships, and by the way, they raised their wages to $16 an hour nationwide.
I did see that. I saw that yesterday or the day before. Yeah, I did see that.
And now there's a lot of people that are going to be pissed off, and then people are looking hard at Walmart like, you guys make more money than anybody, and you won't raise your wages, and you're going to make us do legislation to raise your wages because you won't do it, But there's two sides to every equation. I'm the business owner. Do I get to run my business the way I want, or is the government going to run my business? And it's hard if you look at each side, So that's part of the crux of.
I'm a proponent of. I don't mind the minimum wage for big companies because I'm telling you, we've got enterprise-wide accounts that pay pretty poor, that really pay pretty poor, and that's why they use contractors. And a lot of them underpay, and they get away with it, and they shouldn't. But your small businesses, they need to have a break. They can't pay $15 an hour. That's just it's not going to work. So there could be some kind of demarcation line there. But big companies like Walmart, AT&T, they try to pay less. Even in an office setting, you'd be surprised how many requests I see fly across my desk for open job positions that they only want to pay $16, $17 an hour.
what about our culture? Like, I had a paper out when I was 10 years old. I really did. I ran, but there's none of those jobs anymore. But I was, 4 o'clock in the morning. Here I was. And by the
Yeah,
way, I
yeah,
hated
yeah.
Thanksgiving and Christmas because those papers, like £6 a piece for those newspapers. They
Yeah,
really are.
that's actually a legitimate young kid's job. I mean, it's too bad they don't have those anymore, right?
So should
Um,
should we like say, okay, we need people to do healthcare inoculations? Hey, kid, that you're sitting at home, you're going to learn how to inject people, and you're going to learn how to mop floors. We're going to put you in the hospitals, and we're going to do things so the nurses don't have to do it. Like move people,
right.
gurney them over, or whatever. Or what do you think about having? Because I get an experience like a lot of people, they do not know how to work. They don't know how to work. You have to spend 2 years with them, and then they quit because now they can get a job somewhere else, or whatever.
Yeah,
What do you think?
yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, you see people, they have the skills, but maybe they don't have the social intelligence quite yet. That's not really there. Do we have training for that, or do you have companies that do that, or do you just they just have to work a while? How
We do talk to people about that. We talk to people about being on time, not being 5 minutes late, 5 minutes early, polishing your shoes, dressing appropriately. We talk to them about that. You'd be surprised. I mean, most people, probably don't mind hearing it at all. It depends on the person. But I don't know. I mean, I think some people are just, accustomed to maybe not conforming like that, and that's great. I have no problem with that. I say that the people who, have a tough time, you have to be you have to be talented, right? So, the crazier or the more unique you're going to be if you're going to go work for someone else, you need to be really talented if you're gonna want to show up at 11 a.m. in the morning when everybody else is there at 8, right? I
right?
mean, there are companies, out there that will put up with that, but you have to be pretty smart. I'm a guy, I need to be there at 7:30, right?
Is there
So
something about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning that's just attractive to you? Because I've
I
noticed
don't like it.
no creative project starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. It might be
No.
ending at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like in what I do a lot of times is creative
Yeah.
or make something, right? So that doesn't start at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's more of a we'll get there at 10 and start working on it, or we'll but that's different. If you're an entrepreneur, it's very different than working. I think. What about the culture of you say, okay, I've got this entrepreneur. He had this banging company for 15 years, but now that
Right.
company is not viable now because of COVID, whatever. It could be a
Yeah.
while. He comes to you and he says, "Listen, I just want to make what I was making. Just give me $150,000 and I'll be fine. I don't need to make what I was, I need 100. That's my nut. I've got to crack 150K, and he has banging business. Is there a culture that says that this guy is not going to get a job because people discriminated against people that were entrepreneurs before because they were used to doing what they want? Or
You know what? I've thought about that. That's an interesting question because a lot of times I think to myself, well, if I screw this up, what am I going to go do, right? If I screw my company up and
okay,
say I have to I say to myself, well, I'll just go get a job, right? And then I think to myself, well, what would I, an executive, how would I explain, going out of business, right? Because it
okay,
does seem kind of a tough situation. Or how do you explain bankrupting being a CEO and bankrupting a company? I mean, I guess you could say COVID. I guess you could say whatever. It wasn't your fault. Like the guy from GE's running around saying right now, the guy that replaced Jack Welch. But ultimately, yeah, there's got to be discrimination. I mean, I think we kind of discriminate sometimes, unfortunately, maybe with candidates a lot of times. And usually that's why candidates have a pretty good story why they're no longer there, right?
okay,
So ultimately, something didn't work out, right? But you have to have a good, valid reason as to why it didn't work out. So I guess another tip would be for someone who's trying to get a job is make sure that you have a good explanation.
Should you build an exit strategy if you know this thing is going down in a burning, you know, shoot in 6 months? You can see the writing on the wall. You're somewhere. I I need to take an exit strategy now, right? And so you start writing. Do you start writing, documenting stuff, or what do you do so you could be the good guy when you leave? You know, so you understand what I'm saying? Because we're coming up on our time for our exit strategy pretty soon too. But what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think that we should? Should we have an exit strategy when we're at a job that just isn't working for us? Should we?
Yeah, I would definitely do that. I mean, obviously, always have that, right? I mean, you got to think about what ifs. It's part of the pressure. Um, uh, I'll tell you, in my own personal opinion, in my experience, from what I've gathered with, talking to other business owners, typically what happens, especially like right now with the COVID, is your revenue decreases, which means that your expenses always stay the same. All right. So say if you're a $25 million a year company and you just got chopped in half because of COVID, you lost 25, you down to $13 million of revenue. Guess what? Your company still is operating as expenses of 25 million. So the exit strategy that most guys do is they get rid of expenses. And what's the most expensive thing? People, right?
Right.
So actually, that would be a good reason to tell a placement agency, a high level, why you left. You got downsized.
If I'm still there, can I just start talking to someone like you? When is a good time to know?
Oh yeah.
Do I keep my mouth shut that I'm looking for another
any,
job? What do we do? I mean,
we don't talk to people. See, we are a relationship business, right? But we don't recruit out of our client companies ever. I mean, I know guys that do, but we don't. In other words, I won't go and poach people from a client. Absolutely not. That's unethical. But yeah, we talk to all our clients we have personal relationships with, and really that's ultimately why we've been around so long, is because we've placed them in jobs. So one of the things is, if you find someone a good job, they go out of their way to pay you back.
right. Yeah, that's
That's one of the nice things about it. So and they look for ways to do. People that like you and people that you've taken care of, they'll look for ways to do business with you.
Okay, we're coming up on our time, and it's been great to be with you.
Yeah.
Let's hit this man is JD Godbout. Just in case you joined us halfway through,
It's Godbout. It's French. T silent. Have you told your listeners that you're a big chess player?
No, I keep that secret until it's time to put money on the board. And
Okay.
I play in San Francisco and other places,
Yeah.
and and I used to sit at Second and Market in San Francisco. If you've ever gone down there,
Yeah. I know.
right? And then you see Second, Third Market right up in there, and you'll see people playing chess every day.
All right, let me
And
ask you this, Mike. Have you ever dreamt about playing chess and making moves?
there's a time when I couldn't stop.
I
So
know.
that's when you're I was in the U.S. Open, and I was in the U.S. Amateur.
So you would wake up in the middle of the night, just your mind would be just firing on all cylinders, thinking about chess moves. It's crazy. So I think
I had a
Gambit
worse
is
worse
accurate.
dream. It was more like I
Uh-huh.
knew that this one guy had my number, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I would win every one of these tournaments if this damn guy wouldn't show up.
Right.
So I was like, I'm gonna break his freaking leg. I was gonna do a Karrigan to him. Listen, my grandpa ran the railroad in Chicago during the 40s. He didn't get that job by being a nice person. So
Yeah.
I had an idea. It's like, but I never did it. But when there's some people that are they just got you. It's like when you're playing tennis or something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so there's but oftentimes people don't realize, like in life, there are 4 elements to chess. There's tempo, material, time, right? And position.
Pressure. Yeah, you know what? I actually, that's one thing. If anything, come away from this. If you're listening ever, you don't play chess, pick it up. It's absolutely fantastic. It's, I mean, you can play online now. You don't even need to go to a park.
Hey,
It's
hell of
crazy.
that.
We
We
play
go
guys from all over the world.
Thursday nights. We have people play with real people. I make sure that they're real people, so you're not playing computers. And then we meet up,
I
and then I
know.
just do
That's
little
one.
chess lessons on Meetup. But anyway, let's get some. Okay, everybody, it's your turn to subscribe, share, like, all those things. If you want to hear from really good, successful people or want good advice and stuff, hit that like. And JD, don't you have like a website and stuff and LinkedIn and whatever? How do we get?
Yeah, our my LinkedIn page is JD Godbout. It's the only one in the country, I believe. And the name of my company is IT Resource Market. We go by ITRM. We're headquartered here in Atlanta, Georgia. And yeah, if anybody'd like to fire me off an email from the website, by all means, do. Mike, I appreciate you having me, and it's nice talking to you. And
Okay, we
we'll
gotta do
maybe
some.
have to beat each other up on chess.
Yes, we'll
You'll
do
kill me
that at a
though.
live event or something. But you spell your name like Jodbout, right?
Godbout. Yeah, it's French, believe it or not.
Is
The T
France?
is silent. Yeah, it should be an
Yes.
X on the end.
Does that mean
Godbout.
that the best way to understand business is life is crap and we have to make the best of it? Or like a Dakar kind of thing. Anyway, I just want to say hello, everybody, and we're just going to have to exit out. But this has been a great little bit of time, and thank you, JD. Let's.
Thanks, Mike.
Is there anything, a word of advice or something that you'd say before we go? You get the last word. Take 2 minutes and go for it.
Oh, geez. I mean, early worm gets the bird, right? That's just, make sure you compete and never give up, and have a good time while you're doing it, and don't take yourself so seriously. I try not to. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thanks, bud. Why so serious is our last word. Thank you so much, JD. I'm going to stop the recording, and we will begin our music. We're going to go out. This is Michael Tanner with JD Godbout. What? How do I don't know how to say
Godbout.
Godbout.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. See you guys
See you
next.
later.
Bye.